They will never understand what you carry in your silence. The nights you screamed without sound. The mornings you woke up colder than the steel in your spine. You were not built in light. You were forged in frost. Every betrayal, every insult, every fake smile, every echo of being ignored. That wasn't set pain. That was the hammer. And you are the blade. Look around. The world is loud, soft, distracted. But you are the ghost walking among sheep. The one who stopped chasing approval. The one who doesn't speak but watches. And when the time comes, you will not warn them. You will move like winter. And they will feel the cut, only when it's too late. So shut up, level up, win like a ghost. There's a throne few men ever touch. Not made of gold, but carved from silence. Its foundation, everything you never said. They told you to speak up, to fight for attention, to brand yourself, sell yourself, be louder than your doubt. But you disappeared, not out of weakness, but out of strategy. Because silence is not retreat, it's reconnaissance. You stopped explaining, stopped arguing, stopped proving. And in that stillness, the world mistook you for lost. But you were learning. Every pause became a weapon. Every word you didn't say, a sharpened blade in your arsenal. See, boys talk, men calculate, kings wait. You weren't always like this. There was a time you needed to be seen, to be understood, to be loved loudly. That boy still lives, but you buried him in ritual, not out of hatred, but necessity. You were too loud for too long, trying to fill the void with noise. Noise that got you nowhere. Applause that never lasted. Validation that vanished the moment you closed your eyes. So you left, not physically, but mentally. You entered the monastery no one speaks of. The place where warriors are not trained, they are reborn. There, silence isn't peace, it's punishment. It's the hunger you feel when you resist the urge to speak, to defend yourself, to correct the narrative. But that hunger, that is your evolution. You sit in it, starve the part of you that needs to be understood. And in that starvation, you sharpen. Your voice becomes rare, weighted, surgical. You speak now like a man with scars behind every syllable. No wasted breath, no emotional leakage, only signal, no noise. Most will never get it, because silence makes them panic. It shows them their own chaos. So they fill the void with chatter, like children, afraid of the dark. But you became the dark. You stopped fearing being unseen, and in doing so, you became unavoidable. What they don't understand is this: the wolf doesn't howl to be heard. He howls to remind the night that he still owns it. And so you take the vow of the wolf. 7 days, no unnecessary words. You speak only when it moves the mission, not your ego, not your pain, not your need for connection. 7 days of pulling your voice back into yourself like a sword being sheathed. Every conversation becomes a battlefield. Every silence, a chess move. You watch how others drown in their own talking, how their emotions leak through cracks in their words. But you say nothing. Because when a man controls his tongue, he controls the narrative. And when the world cannot predict you, it fears you, it respects you, or it leaves you alone. All outcomes serve you. So let them think you're cold. Let them misread your quiet as arrogance. You're not here to explain. You're here to rule. And rulers are not crowned by noise. They are built in silence. Not all thrones are visible. Some exist only within the mind of the man who chose stillness over chaos, discipline over dopamine, mission over emotion. You have nothing to prove. And that is exactly what makes you dangerous. So speak when it cuts. Speak when it builds. Speak when the silence has done its job. But until then, hold your tongue like a blade. And when the moment comes, strike with words they never saw coming. Because silence isn't the absence of noise. It's the weapon that shapes kings. Pain isn't the villain they told you it was. It's the forge. And whether you like it or not, you've been in it for years. You were thrown in young, when no one was watching. When the people who were supposed to protect you didn't. You remember, even if you don't speak it. Even if you buried it under ambition, muscle, sarcasm, or silence. The betrayals, the women who looked through you, the men who laughed when they should have led. The years you played the game and still lost. The mornings you woke up already exhausted. The nights you laid in bed, staring at a ceiling that never answered back. You know what that is. That's the furnace. And the weak, they run from it, hide from it, numb it with pills. porn, likes, lies, they burn out. But you didn't. Because something inside you didn't die. Even when you wanted it to. Even when you begged for the numbness to take over completely. Some ember refused to go dark. Call it savage, call it divine, call it stubborn, but it stayed. And that ember, that little flame you carry in your gut, that's not weakness. It's a warning to the world, to the past, to every version of you that gave up before the battle even began. That ember is what you become. You don't run from the pain now. You walk back into the fire, eyes open, because you finally understand. Pain isn't punishment, it's permission, a ritual, a sacred brutality. Only the initiated survive. And if you survive it, you don't come out the same. You come out named, not by what the world calls you, but by what you call yourself. After you faced the furnace and didn't flinch. This is ash mapping. You pick up a pen, or a blade. It's the same thing now. And you write down the 5 scars that shaped you. Not for pity, not for therapy, for clarity. Each memory, a battlefield. Each wound, a lesson. Each chapter, a signal fire to the man you're becoming. The time your trust was shattered, that's not a weakness. That's your new boundary. The moment you were humiliated, that's not trauma. That's the cost of sharpening your edge. The numb years you wasted in comfort, that's not regret. That's the tax you paid for waking up. They don't understand what it took. They see your silence and call it cold. They see your eyes and think angry. But you're not angry. You're aware. You've seen behind the curtain. You know how easy it is to become a ghost, to live unnoticed, unchosen, unfelt. But you chose to feel, even when it tore you open. And in doing so you chose to become. You no longer run from the fire, because you are the fire. You are what happens when a man doesn't numb, doesn't fold, doesn't fake. When he walks into the storm, and keeps walking. Every scar is a signature, a mark from the gods of discipline. They do not bless the loud, they bless the broken. Because only the broken can be rebuilt. And now with your memories mapped in ash, you rise from them, not polished, but sharpened. You are not here to heal, you are here to hunt. The pain didn't destroy you, it designed you. And when men ask you where your strength comes from, you won't point to your victories, you'll point to your burns. Because most men burn out, but some burn through. Their quote, as a moment, right before the blade drops, where the real warrior does nothing. No twitch, no breath, no blink. Because in war, the first to move is the first to lose. You've spent your life reacting, apologizing, explaining, flinching at every raised voice, every sideways glance, every subtle shift in energy. But the wild doesn't reward movement. It rewards stillness, the loudest one in the room, almost always the weakest. Because the strong don't need to declare it. They demonstrate it, in the silence between threats. The pack doesn't follow the one who screams. It follows the one who waits. The one who watches everything, and gives nothing. Still, like stone, calm, like winter, unmoved. That's presence, that's dominance, that's power without posture. And it's terrifying, because most people aren't used to being seen without being soothed. They aren't used to silence that doesn't submit, to a gaze that doesn't shrink. So when you stop flinching, you become a mirror. You reflect their chaos. You force them to confront it, alone. You don't argue. You don't explain. You don't need them to understand. Because understanding is not the goal. Control is. Control of your face. Control of your tone. Control of the space. That's the eye of the storm, where everything around you shakes, and you stay still. Think of every argument you ever lost. Was it because of logic? Or was it because you broke formation? You spoke too soon. Tried to prove a point. Tried to show them you were right. But the real predator doesn't pounce. He positions, he watches, listens, waits, because reaction is emotional, but power is strategic. So now, you train. You train by doing nothing. When they raise their voice, you lower yours. When they lean in, you lean back. When they demand your attention, you give them your absence. Not as a game, as a law. You are no longer accessible to chaos. Every man has to choose. Flinch like prey, or wait like the wolf. This week, let their discomfort speak louder than your words. Let their tension hang in the air like smoke, and do not move. They will fidget, they will stumble, they will say too much, because silence is the ultimate interrogation room. The weak confess, the strong calculate. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be undeniable, unreadable, unshakable, unreachable by anything that doesn't serve the mission. That's presence, and presence is the new armor. So next time they try to provoke you, don't blink, don't bite, don't bleed, just watch. Let them see their own storm reflected in your calm. Let them fall into the silence they cannot control. Because the wolf who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, he chooses, and when he moves, it's already too late. You weren't abandoned, you were chosen, by the silence. You didn't fit in because you weren't meant to. Not here, not with them. The small talk, the fake smiles, the applause of the average. They called you antisocial, too cold, too intense, too much. But they never understood. Intensity isn't a defect, it's the signal of depth, and depth frightens shallow people. You didn't walk away from the world, it just couldn't hold you. Not in its watered-down conversations, its dopamine parades, its worship of comfort disguised as connection. You were set apart, not because you're broken, but because you're building. You needed the exile, because kings aren't made in crowds. They're forged in corners, quietly, alone. The exile is not punishment, it's purification. No noise, no distraction, no fake handshakes or hollow validation. Just you, the mirror, the weight, and the plan. Loneliness isn't your enemy, it's your architect. When the social death hits, when your phone goes dry, when no one asks where you've been, when you feel like a ghost walking through a world that stopped seeing you, that's when the real work begins. The rebuild, the rewire, the rebirth, and the man you become there. He doesn't chase connection, he creates gravity. You begin replacing noise with knowledge, parties with purpose, approval with progress. You become dangerous, because now, you have no leash, no audience to perform for, no room for anything that doesn't sharpen the sword. Voluntary exile, 30 days, you cut the signal, you unplug from the matrix, you disappear, not to hide, but to hunt. You spend your days reading war strategy, building your body like a fortress, designing systems that serve no one but your mission. You become a system, a movement, a storm with a schedule. And while they scroll, while they gossip, while they seek comfort in each other's mediocrity, you become sovereign. They'll talk, they'll wonder, they'll try to pull you back. Ignore them. Lions don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep, and ghosts don't even hear them. They can't touch you anymore, because you no longer need them. The version of you that did, he's gone, dead in the wilderness, buried in silence, replaced by a man who needs nothing but the next move, the next book, the next rep, the next piece of the empire. When the 30 days are done, you won't come back the same. You won't want their approval. You'll smell the weakness in it. You'll feel the weightlessness in their words. And no, they have no power here. You were never one of them. You were just pretending. But exile revealed the truth. You don't belong, you command. And every day spent in solitude wasn't isolation, it was ignition. Because power doesn't grow under the spotlight, it grows in the shadows, in the silence, in the exile, by design. You were raised to feel first, react fast, explode, apologize, repeat. That's how they keep you weak, trapped in the emotional cage. But the man you're becoming, he doesn't react, he calculates, because emotions are not the enemy, they're the raw fuel, and fire, when left untamed, consumes everything, but when harnessed, it forges steel. You used to think anger was power, that rage meant strength, but power isn't loud, it isn't fast, it isn't frantic, it's cold, precise, surgical. The world throws chaos your way, hoping you'll flinch, that you'll break formation, that you'll respond before you think. Because the first to feel is the first to fall, but not anymore. Now you let the heat rise, and hold it. You feel it, fully, not to obey it, to own it. That's the shift, from the animal to the architect. You don't kill your emotions, you enslave them. Anger becomes focus, lasered, refined, targeted. Lust becomes leverage. You no longer chase, you attract. You redirect that primal hunger into creation, into conquest. Doubt becomes data. You stop fearing it, you study it, you weaponize it, because mastery isn't cold blood, it's warm blood with cold strategy. You still feel, you just don't follow. This is chess now, and every reaction is a piece you might lose. You wait, You watch, you plan 10 moves ahead, and when they expect an explosion, you give them nothing. No flinch, no fire, just silence, sharpening. You don't yell, you position, you don't attack, you place the knife, and wait. Because power, true power, is not in domination, it's in restraint, controlled, patient, relentless. That's the 3-day rule. When something triggers you, wait. Not forever, just 72 hours. Let the storm pass. Because what's said in emotion can be your ruin, but what's done in clarity becomes your legend. You used to respond in seconds, now you respond in strategies. You used to bleed your thoughts, now you bleed precision. Let them think you're passive. Let them mistake your silence for softness. That's the trap, and they've already stepped in it. Because while they rage, you raid. While they vent, you build. While they chase validation, you chase the mission. And the man who moves only when it matters always wins. So when anger surges, when lust tempts, when doubt whispers, you do not speak, you listen. And then, when the field is clear, when the fog has lifted, when the timing is perfect, you strike, not with fury, with finality. Because the king doesn't scream across the board. He slides the piece, places the knife, and lets time do the rest. That's who you are now, not a slave to storms, a strategist within them. You are not cold, you are calculated, and if they ever doubt your fire, remind them, even the warmest blood can spill without mercy. There comes a point where the battlefield goes quiet. No enemies left to chase, no applause to earn, no one to fight, except yourself. And that's when the war begins. Not the kind with swords, the kind with silence, the kind where you stare into a mirror long enough to see past the mask, where the man looking back at you finally has no more excuses left to give. It's not your father's fault anymore, not her betrayal, not the economy, not your past, not your trauma. You're a man now, and the mirror doesn't care about your feelings. It just reflects them, back at you, unfiltered, unforgiving, unavoidable. Most will run. They'll distract themselves, with noise, with women, with blame, with dopamine. They'll do anything to avoid that stillness, because the mirror, it cuts. But if you stand there long enough, if you look through the pain instead of around it, you'll see something deeper. You'll see the enemy, and he's not out there, he's in here. He's the version of you that didn't show up, the one who hit snooze, the one who said next week, the one who played the victim, and called it wisdom. And until you bury that man, until you put your foot on his neck and crush the lies he whispered to you, you will never rise, you will never lead, you will never be free. Victimhood is a cage dressed in comfort. It seduces you into waiting. It gives you stories to explain away your failures. But those stories don't build empires, they build graves. And every time you choose blame over accountability, you hand the shovel to your future, and it starts digging. The truth: no one is coming, not to save you, not to fix you, not to believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And when that lands, not just in your mind but in your bloodstream, you ignite, not with anger, with responsibility, with clarity so sharp it slices through every lie you ever told yourself. You are the problem, you are the solution, you are the storm, you are the shelter. There is no they, no secret enemy, no master puppeteer, just you, your patterns, your choices, your shadows. So you begin the ritual, shadow work, not to shame yourself, but to track your internal assassin, the silent saboteur, who wears your face and talks in your voice. You list your weaknesses, every single one, not to hate them, to hunt them, because you're done being prey. You're done bleeding quietly in the background of your own life. You don't need more motivation. You need a mirror, and the courage to keep looking. Most can't, most flinch, but you endure, because on the other side of that reflection is the version of you that doesn't need saving. The one who remembers, who decides, who builds. No fanfare, no audience, just scars and strategy. So if you want freedom, real freedom, stop praying for a better path. Start building a better warrior. Because until you bury your excuses, your future will keep digging your grave. They lied to you, told you power was loud, told you kings were crowned with noise, that control meant domination, when really it means discipline.
Most men never learn this. They bark, they beg, they broadcast. But in the end they're just puppets, dancing for attention, bleeding for approval, addicted to being seen. But you've started to feel something different, quieter, heavier, like armor being slowly fitted to the soul. You've stopped reacting, stopped explaining, stopped proving, and that silence, that's the beginning of power. Real power doesn't chase, it chooses, it doesn't shout, it commands, it doesn't erupt, it simmers, cold and lethal, like a blade resting on a neck. Control is when your emotions serve you, not enslave you, when your mind doesn't twitch at every trigger, when your presence speaks louder than your words, and your absence speaks even louder than your presence. You've felt it, haven't you? That shift, when you walk into a room and don't need to say a word, yet people start adjusting themselves. They sense something, not arrogance, not aggression, something else, a stillness, like a storm that hasn't moved, but could, like a lion that doesn't roar, because it doesn't need to. This is where you separate, where the boy who once sought control over others becomes the man who has mastered himself. No more outbursts, no more justifying, no more leaking energy into places that don't respect it. Now every word is a chess move, every silence is a strategy, every step is calculated, every breath is earned. You're not emotionless, you're just untouchable. They try to provoke you, they press your buttons, they search for your weaknesses, but you don't flinch, because if they can read you, they can rule you, and you've become unreadable. The sacred man is not transparent, he is shadow, not because he hides, but because he protects what's holy. Your mind, your mission, your masculine edge. This isn't about suppression, this is about precision, this is about precision. You feel everything, but you express nothing you haven't mastered. You no longer live at the mercy of the world's noise. You've built an inner kingdom where you are both ruler and soldier, and every time chaos knocks, you answer with stillness. You weaponize restraint. You become the unmoved mover, the force that influences all, yet remains unshaken by any. Others react. You choose. Others crave. You wait. Others panic. You calculate. Because kings don't scream, they whisper, and entire rooms fall silent. You used to need them to understand you. Now you're fine if they never do. You used to want to be liked. Now you'd rather be respected, or misunderstood, or feared, anything but predictable. You used to prove you were strong. Now, you just are. And the truth is they'll never really know you. Not fully, because you've become a mystery. Not out of pride, but out of power. They see the crown, but they don't see the war it took to earn it. And that's the point. Control isn't about dominating others. It's about never needing to. It's walking through fire, and choosing not to burn. It's standing in storms, and staying dry. It's being pulled by the world, and not moving an inch. That's the weight of real power. Not noise, not followers, not control over them. Control over you. And when that crown settles on your mind, not your ego, you don't wear it for display. You wear it in silence, in shadow, where only the disciplined men recognize it, and the rest only feel it. Because the man crowned in control doesn't rise by shouting, he rises by never needing to. And when he speaks, kingdoms move. They thought you'd make noise. They thought when you finally rose from the ashes, you'd scream like the wounded animal they once laughed at. But wolves don't bark, they bite. You've spent years in the fire, not just burning, but forging, alone, quietly, while they danced under spotlights and fed on applause. You chose the shadows. You turned your back on the stage, because true power doesn't beg to be seen. You learned something dangerous. The final form is not louder. It's invisible. Not invisible because you're weak. Invisible because you've grown past the need to be seen. You move like smoke now. Impossible to catch. Impossible to hold. They reach for you and grab nothing. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped broadcasting your plans. You started vanishing. And the silence, it's deafening. You build with your mouth shut. You execute with your jaw clenched. And when it's done, when the empire rises from the dirt, you don't point to it. You let them find it, alone, staring up in disbelief, knowing you were always 2 moves ahead. And they never saw it coming. This is the end of the old self, the end of the noisy boy, the death of the seeker. You no longer chase validation, you bury it. You've become something else entirely. The ghost, the strategist with fangs, the monk with scars, the king who doesn't sit on a throne, but builds kingdoms in silence. They can't track you, not anymore. You left the map, you burned the trail, you erased the scent, you walked through rooms like a shadow, unannounced, unapologetic, and unmistakably dangerous. You don't post the process, you don't celebrate the steps, you don't show the grind, because a weapon is most deadly when it's hidden. You don't need recognition, you need results. You don't explain how, you let the outcome haunt them. And in this quiet war, the loud ones die first. They reveal their moves, they show their hunger, they expose their desperation, and in doing so they give away their power. But not you. You chose the silent warfare protocol. No announcement, no celebration, just momentum, disguised as stillness. Because when they can't see your hand, they can't block the strike. You reappear not with words, but with dominance. Not with noise, but with undeniable evidence. You become a presence that echoes in their mind, even when you've already left the room. A ghost, not of who you were, but of what they could have been, had they moved like you. And the truth is, most people want to be seen. They want credit. They want the applause before the mission's even done. But you understood the ancient law. The loudest man in the room is often the weakest. So you disappeared from their noise, only to reappear in their nightmares. No trail, no signal, just shadows, and the quiet hum of inevitable victory. They'll wonder how you did it, how you went from invisible to undeniable. But you'll never answer, because ghosts don't speak, they haunt, and that's the power they never saw coming. The day you stop needing to be seen is the day you become unstoppable. Let them chase the spotlight. You are the storm behind the curtain, the checkmate behind the silence, the king that moves like a whisper and strikes like a ghost. Because in the end, the most terrifying force is the one they never saw coming and never see again.